And one of the things you talk about, Dr. CJ, is to keep it moving. During this quarantine, we have not been keeping it moving, and that's hurting us. So what are some of the things that we can do to keep it moving at home until we can get to an office to see you?
Yes, I love this question. So, honestly, in the clinic, I do have all of the weights and the equipment and all that stuff, but I don't touch it very much. Most of the recommendations, if not all of them, are for how to move at home. So and I have that stuff in case somebody wants to practice a movement that hurts them when they're at the gym and they're very intentional about their goals to get back to the gym. But otherwise, we can do everything we need to at home. So one example is, when you're about to sit down for a meal, sit down and stand up 10 times on that chair.
Really?
I mean, if you're about to sit anyway, the chair's there. I mean, if you lose your balance, you just sit down. Hopefully it's a chair that's not on wheels, right?
Okay.
I don't want anybody to call in and sit and bump their head.
Okay.
There's no stable chair, but you're about to sit down and have a meal. That's a great opportunity. Just do 10 stand up, sit down, and then you've moved a little bit. Or anytime you get up to go to the bathroom, working. So when you're brushing your teeth is also another popular example I like to give, where you can practice your balance while you're brushing your teeth. So I'm not suggesting necessarily stand on one leg, but even if you stand with one foot slightly in front of the other one, that can be enough of a challenge. And now you're separating the brain and practicing this multitasking of the body taking care of the balance while the brain takes care of moving the hand to brush your teeth.
Wow.
So it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be a program where you're dedicating half an hour a day to do your movements, because quite honestly, nobody has time for it. Nobody's going to sit there and do 30 minutes of movement. So if you can pick things and put it into your already existing day, then by the time you get to the end of the day, maybe you have one thing that you're like, oh, I didn't do that thing today. Okay, let me do that, and then that's it, and we're done. And then waiting for your coffee, if you're making coffee or tea at home, you can come down on your toes a couple of times, do some heel raises, going up and down the stairs. If you're taking things up, the recommendation sometimes is, take half the load that you want to go up the stairs, and then come back and do it again with the other half the load.
Oh, okay.
So things that you already do, space that you already use, and then just increasing either the frequency or modifying a little bit, right? So if you're standing there cooking and you're waiting for something to go, maybe you do a bunch of push-ups on the counter.
Oh, okay.
Putting your hands on the counter and then just doing a bunch of, like 5, 10, whatever it is.
Okay.
Personally, I'm not attached to numbers, so I don't like to tell people to do like 2 sets of 20 of these things or 3 sets of 10 of the other thing. Honestly, it doesn't matter. Just something is better than nothing.
Now, because you are originally from Canada and you are not, I wonder if, the thought just came to me, so excuse if I don't understand.
Okay.
We are very focused on numbers in America. And the fact that you grew up in Canada, and just like most doctors will tell you to do 10 reps or 15 reps or something like that, do you think your background, because you came up in Canada, does that have anything to do with that? Because we're so numbers oriented here in the States as opposed to in Canada? You think? I don't know.
That's a good question. My training was actually in Boston.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah, I don't know if it's a background thing so much as when we're trying to strengthen a muscle, we need to get it a little bit tired that you feel it the next day,
okay.
but not overcook it that you can't walk the next day.
Okay.
So I think that's where my numbers thing comes from, to be honest.
Okay.
And the reason for that is that the brain is very picky about its resources. So it's going to sit over here and hoard all the resources, and you really have to prove it to the brain that you want this specific muscle made stronger. And the only way you can prove it is by making it tired. If you can just that muscle, then the brain's sitting over here with its resources, and the brain's going to say, all right, fine, here, have that if you really want to make it stronger.
Okay.
Because it's responsible for taking care of and prioritizing things that need to be repaired and fixed and all that stuff around the body. So you have to prove it. No, I really need the building material for this muscle.
Okay. How cool is that? Okay.
And the numbers are going to change every day, too. I think is the other reason I'm hesitant to give numbers. Because we talked about the quota before, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a certain amount of, if you have a quota on how much that muscle will let you move today before it gets really angry, and you've already walked a great distance, when you go to do your exercises, you may only get through 5 or 10 repetitions before the muscle says, okay, I'm sufficiently tired.
Oh.
But if you haven't moved much today, then you can maybe do 30 of that exercise, and then the muscle gets tired.
Okay.
So I'd rather educate on need to fatigue the muscle a little bit that you feel the next day, not too much that you can't walk the next day. Concept versus, and that goes back to learning the body's messages, right? That goes back to communicating to the body and
so that quote, no pain, no gain really is real if you're not experiencing, or is it? I don't know.
Yeah. That's a common hesitating. It's like, oh, that's a common one we hear in PT. It depends on your definition of pain. So if you're going to say no pain, no gain, and your definition is muscle fatigue and muscle soreness, then I would say that quote is correct.
Okay.
But if your definition of pain is that pain that makes you stop and takes your breath away and makes you think I need medication, then that's a different. That pain, no gain, I would not agree with.
Okay.
That's confusing.
That's a different kind of pain.
Right. Like good pain versus bad pain.
Okay, so is there a good pain versus bad pain?
Good pain in the sense of like muscle soreness, muscle fatigue, medium intensity stretching, like anything that's uncomfortable, but you can kind of rationalize to yourself, like, no, I think this is reasonable. And the bad pain is more the pain that takes your breath away, more the pain that makes you think, oh, I need to see somebody about this, or more the pain that says, I need medication. So I think that's the bad pain. And that's something that we do in PT all the time, is teach how to interpret what the good pain looks like.
How to interpret the pain? Yeah. Really? We just see pain as pain. We didn't know that we needed to interpret it at all. It's just pain and we feel it. That's what, wow. Okay, so that's an eye-opener for me. Okay. If you'd like to join the conversation this morning, 515-605-9325, press 1 to speak. We are live on the air with Dr. C.J. Mimee of Valona Health, and today we're discussing physical therapy, how balance is related to pain. Now, we've talked a lot about physical pain as it relates to us. But what about mental pain? How does that play into the physical pain, Dr. Mimee? And I'm doing this because I need to move. Okay.
No worries. You asked the best questions. And I will say to the listeners, we didn't rehearse any of this. I didn't feed her any questions.
Because I'm asking for myself. That's why those questions are like that.
Gotcha. And I got so excited about it, I may have forgotten the question.
I did too. Can anybody tell me what I just said? I do that sometimes. I'm sorry, honey. I have senior moments. What did I just say? Somebody tell me what I just said. 515-605-9325. Press 1 to speak. See, don't feel bad.
I'm trying to think.
As it relates. Oh, there's so much physical pain.
Yes. Emotional pain, mental pain.
Yes.
And how that. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Like, I really like the topic too. I was sad to lose it.
Okay.
So, what we talked about at the very beginning of the show, that the difference between the intellectual brain and the nervous system. So the nervous system is designed to protect us. The intellectual brain will be overridden by the nervous system if we do something that the nervous system thinks is not safe. So, for example, you could come into PT and say, let me not generalize to you. So when patients come into PT, sometimes when I'm working on their body, like I do a lot of manual therapies, whether that's joint mobilizations, massage, anything that kind of helps the body to loosen up. Sometimes patients will apologize and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm not trying to tighten up." Because in the past, they've been told by other physical therapists or other healthcare providers they need to relax. And they're constantly hearing this, like, relax, relax, relax. But it's not, and I make sure that they know that it's not them. The intellectual brain is not necessarily the part of their body that's making their body tighten up. The nervous system, if you have a long history of injuries on that particular body part, the nervous system has the memory of, oh boy, we keep doing something to our ankle. Let me not trust this person just yet. So the way I describe it to patients is you and I need to gain your nervous system's trust. So the mental health and the emotional baggage and memories that people come into is super important, because if you don't address that and you don't try and gain the nervous system's trust, you're essentially like hitting a brick wall and not making much progress, and you could make things worse, because the nervous system is going to continue to tighten if you don't gain its trust. And I see this all the time. The second I explain that intellectual brain versus the nervous system, people almost feel like a sense of, and then they do relax because they realize, okay, she's not telling me to relax. Together we are supposed to be working as a team to get our nervous system, their nervous system, to come down a couple notches. And there are many strategies to do that. Kind of rhythmic motion within a comfortable range is one of the strategies. Deep breathing is one of the strategies. And then going through with manual therapy, the mobilizations or the massage, all that stuff, gently. So and you can feel the muscles too. Like when I'm working on somebody, I can feel what's ready to loosen and what is not necessarily trusting just yet. So you do layer at a time. And it's tempting, because when something's hurt so bad, and I tell patients all the time, we cannot get revenge on the body.
Ooh.
Because if we try and dig out a muscle knot, the nervous system's going to say, hold on a minute, and it's going to tighten down more. So it very much is this layer by layer by layer. So you might have to work on a trigger point or a muscle knot, do one layer, and then come back to it in a couple hours, do another layer, come back to another couple hours. Talked about before, this, like, the body's normal. So taking it from its current normal to what we intellectually know as a best normal.
Okay. And I love the fact that you mentioned massages, because you don't think massage when you go to PT, physical therapist. When I'm in therapy, at the end of my therapy sessions, they would always ask me, do you want ice? We're going to massage you now, and do you want ice or heat? And I'm thinking to myself, that's why I love physical therapy, because I love getting a massage. When we come back from break, it's 8:31. When we come back from break, I want to talk more about the emotional part of the physical therapy, because listening to Viata's show last night, Soul Purpose Healing on Blog Talk Radio, The Female Solution, and one of the gentlemen several of the gentlemen called in, and they talked about how the pain, the memory of the pain, sometimes puts them in a dark place. And one of the veterans called in and talked about that specifically. And I'm wondering how that memory of that dark place, how it shows up in the muscles and the tendons and the ligaments and the fibers and things of that nature. So how can we move beyond that? Because the discussion we had, it brought up memories of bad experiences, and we hold those bad experiences in ourselves. How can we move beyond that, Dr. Mimee? So in case you just joined us, that's Dr. C.J. Mimee of Bologna Health. She is our resident therapist here, I should say physical therapist. She is a doctor of physical therapy and practices in the orthopedic world. And what does that have to do with memory and the muscles and the ligaments, Dr. Mimee?
That's a good question. I think the first step to addressing kind of long history of physical trauma, emotional trauma that's now sitting in the body. I tell patients all the time that stress will sit in the body and become stiffness. The first step, I would say, is actually finding a physical therapist that you trust. So clinics will do a free injury screening consultation. So call and ask for it. There's also the American Physical Therapy Association has a website, so it's the apta.org/findapt. So you can start to find a physical therapist in your area. When you're doing this initial free screening or free consultation, it really is an interview. So you're going to be interviewing that person to see how good their listening skills are. So the reason I emphasize that, I mean, it's useful and important for everybody, but especially if you've had a long history of pain, physical, emotional, at some point, and I imagine at many points, you were not listened to fully by your healthcare providers. So when you're going to this free consult or this free injury screening, you're interviewing them to see how good their listening skills are. And the reason I emphasize that is that if their listening skills are subpar and they're not good, they will have less information to actually treat you and take care of you. Right? All of the information out of you that they need, they're going to be building a plan that has holes in it. Wow.
Because we don't realize how much power we have. We have the power. We're just going you for your professional opinion.
Right.
Wow. Oh.
It's your body and self-advocating. That's why I do all of this outreach stuff, because I want people to know how to strongly advocate for yourself, because I believe strongly in people's ability to be physically happy and healthy. So your only job when you go in there is just to see, not only job, but your primary job is to see how good of a listener they are. Last year, I think it was, I saw statistics somewhere that the average patient gets interrupted. Actually, I was going to ask you, how long do you think it takes for a patient to get interrupted when they first come in the door?
To see the doctor? Probably by the time they open their mouth, the doctor's like, be quiet. I'm the pro here. I know what's best. I'm guessing. I don't know. I'm just being sarcastic. I don't know.
It was something on the order. I don't remember if it was 5 seconds or 11 seconds, but it was short. Yeah. It was short. By that point, you barely finished saying your name. You shut down already. Yeah, exactly. And they won't be able to get enough information out of you to build a proper and well-rounded plan. So going in and finding somebody that's going to listen, I'd say, is the first job for anybody, but especially if you've had a lifetime of pain. And many of us carry a lifetime of pain. Now, you recommended apta.org, and that's fine. I appreciate that, but I don't know of any doctors who recommend other doctors. They usually want doctors for themselves. So I'm going to ask you to give your information for people who want to contact you personally, and maybe they'll go later, but I want them to contact you because you're such a wealth of information and you're sharing that information. So what number can we contact you with, Dr. CJ? Thank you. I always forget this stuff. Well, that's my job to remind you. Focus on other people. I'm like, you need to find a PT close to your home. Yeah. So my phone number is 312-324-0953. And I'll repeat that number again. And if you call and it goes to voicemail, I'm probably with a patient, so please do leave a voicemail and I'll get back to you. The number is 312-324-0953. Even if that means you just want to chat about what you found on the website and you want to have guidance in terms of how to pick a PT, I'm happy to chat that out with you as well. Okay. And then BellonaHealth.com would be the website. Can you spell that, please? Yep. V like Victor, E-L-O-N like Nancy, A, health.com. VELONA
BellonaHealth.com. BellonaHealth.com. It's 8:46. I know you've got to get out of here in about 10 minutes, so we're going to take a few calls before you leave. Area code 706-202. You are live on the Female Solution Grand Rising. What's your name? Where are you calling from? And what's your comment or question for Dr. C.J. Mimee?
Grand Rising.
Grand Rising. What is this, Brother
This is Kwame?
Kwame?
I'm calling you from Georgia. And Grand Rising to Dr. CJ. The question I was waiting and listening to, and she eloquently told all the things that interacts between a physical therapist and a patient. But I was wanting to hear touch. And touching can cause certain memories to reawaken in a person. And when that happens, they, like you're saying, tense up, and they will, have a reaction to something that was traumatic to them from that pain or that accident or thing that happened with them. And how do you work with that as far as getting, okay, the muscles and things may be okay until that person is touched a certain way, and that reaction happens that caused them to remember that trauma?
Excellent question. So going back to the listening, making sure that you're educating patients. So I like to, which takes some time and it sometimes frustrates people, but I would like people to have as much information as possible to be able to make an educated decision for yourself. So I usually tell patients, we did the evaluation, and then I will say, okay, this is what we found. This is what I think we need to address to get you to your goals. This is how I would like to go about doing it. So I will explain the manual therapy and the massage, the stuff that I'm recommending, and then get verbal consent of whether or not somebody's okay with it. I also make a point above and beyond the verbal consent. I also make a point of telling them, please let me know if you change your mind. Because this is your body, and it's okay if you initially said, okay, let's try it, and then we get into it, and you're like, maybe not today. I'm not going to take it personally. There's so many ways to get at your goals and to help progress you along your path that it's not important for me that I do the manual therapy. I could teach you how to do it. And I can walk you through the different tools that you can use that you have at home that you don't even know about, like a rolling pin for baking and borrow your dog's ball, or, honestly, anything. So I think that's a really important question. And that goes back to listening, and listening happens before you can build trust. And knowing that it's okay to change your mind. You can turn around and say, you know what, I've changed my mind. I don't really feel comfortable with that. And then your practitioner, your healthcare provider, there shouldn't be any ego in healthcare. So your healthcare provider should be able to say, no problem, this is how we're going to pivot. This is what we're going to do next. Does that make sense?
Does that answer your question, Kwame?
Kind of, sort of, because what I'm looking at is, you were talking about DAP, the 5 bloods. And there were things in which happened in that time of my experience in Nam. And there were pains that were caused by, physical pains that happened. That if I touch a certain part of the body, activation of that, feeling that trauma or feeling that pain, it's like a memory in the cells or the muscle that occurs when you touch that certain area. You remember how that felt, even though even though the body is well, and you're thinking you're normal, but that sensation will happen. Or it's just like sometimes you can even smell a smell that will give you a memory that happened in something traumatic in your life. So I'm looking at, do you work in saying, okay, this is a serious situation, you need to look at getting a mental health evaluation as to how deep this is embedded into your physical, like you're saying, down to the marrow of one's bones.
Okay, and there is a lot of collaboration between different healthcare providers. So I think that is a very good way of looking at it. I will say on the physical therapy standpoint, while going to see a behavioral health therapist and some other people that might help you interpret and rewire the memories that are coming from that specific spot being touched, I think there's still stuff that we could do in physical therapy. So we don't have to go directly to that spot. Sounds like you're self-aware and that you know your body. So you communicating saying this spot does this to me, then that means that your healthcare provider should listen and say, okay, that spot I'm going to avoid. I promise you I'm not going to touch it. What do you think? And then it's a communication, right? It's a back and forth. What do you think if we address the neighboring muscles first? And then essentially if you're over sessions, right? It's not in the same session. It might be weeks, it might be months, but together going through, okay, what will the nervous system now allow me to do? How close can I approach that spot? If you absolutely need to touch the spot, right? I mean, it's possible that your situation doesn't need that spot addressed in physical therapy, and there might be other healthcare providers to help you address that. But if we do need to get into that spot, it would be something that building trust and communication across weeks and months to address neighboring muscles, eventually in hoping that the spot that gets touched that triggers those memories, as we work on the neighboring muscles, maybe that spot starts to get smaller and smaller. Is that a fair way of saying it?
Well, thank you. And, that's just something I was needing to hear another perspective from it. So I thank you for your answers.
Of course, and good luck with everything. If you want to reach out and chat about it more, I'm happy to.
Okay, thank you so much for calling in with that. That's a profound question, Kwame. Thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you for those who are listening online on Facebook.com, Zelda Speaks, as well as Twitter and Instagram. And I do need you to remember the power of touch. Dr. Mimee, I didn't play it during a commercial break, but Mama D, we talked about Mama D earlier, and she has a 2-minute promo. I may play it at the end of the show once you're gone, because I know you have a 9 o'clock appointment with a patient, but I think the power of touch is crucial, and how we are touched. And it just reminded me of a time when we were talking about memory in the cells. And, there it is, Mama D on healing power of touch. I'm going to play that before we go off the air when you're gone, because I know you got to go, and I want you to be able to say everything you got to say. But the power of touch, it reminded me of a time in my life when I was physically abused, and the thought just came to my mind when he was asking that question. When someone puts their hand on my thigh, that's a no-no. You can touch my hand, you can touch my arm, but if you put your hand on my thigh, we're going to have an issue, because that's a memory that is ingrained in my tissues that some abuse is on the way. And it may not very well be on the way, but the person that's touching me, they don't know that. So that's something that we have to be mindful of. If you can be mindful of it, I don't know. Can we? I don't know.
Right. I mean, and it's possible that if you forget to mention that to your healthcare provider and it comes up, there should still be some grace on the healthcare provider's side and some understanding to be able to take a step back and say, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize that elicited that response. I'm here to listen to you. I'm here to respect your space. Whatever it is you need, as things come up, please let me know. And I think it's important to have that open dialogue.
Yes.
You're right. Some things that we forget to say or we don't realize are relevant until you're in the moment.
Yes.
You're like, hold on a minute.
And I think it's all part of the healing process. I was given some YouTube videos to watch. This Brother Kwame Sunhorse, who calls in and shares information often about information. He's an elder, as I am, and he's always sharing information with me, and I'm so very, very grateful for that. And one of the things that he shared with me is the Secrets of Spiritual Healing seminar with Dr. Mitchell Gibson. and it's I don't know how many parts it is, but I was listening to it last night. It was just one part, and I'm on part 10 right now because it is so interesting, and it talks about the universe and the stars and the moons and how all of that is combined with the messages in our body. And I'm like, whoa, this is fifth dimension here, honey. We are operating on 3D, and we have got to get out of it. We've got to go to the next level. So I just want to thank you and Dr. Mitchell Gibson. He doesn't even know I'm talking about him, and Kwame Sunhorse for sharing that information, as well as other information that Kwame shared with me about the new Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander, and there's a video he shared with me as well. You need to read up on that prison and police abolition, and it's online at local.nashvillescene.com. That's local.nashvillescene.com, and I'll post that information on my social media page as well, but I just had to get that in there. I wanted you and your viewers and listeners to know about that information. It is 8:57, and we are coming to a close. Dr. Mimee, I would like for you to give us a closing thought on the show, and I will be sharing your information on the Internet.
Revisit the Keep It Moving. Revisit the deep breathing, finding a physical therapist, and interviewing them during a free injury screening or free consultation to see how much they're willing to listen. Because if they're not listening, then they can't build a full, well-rounded plan. The plan they build is going to have holes in it. So making sure that you feel like you're fully being heard. And yeah.
Powerful. And your contact information once more?
The phone number is 312-324-0953. The number is 312-324-0953, and you can also find us at Bologna Health, any social media that you want, but it's also bolognahealth.com. So be like Victor, E-L-O-N like Nancy, A, health.com.
Oh.
So it's so lovely to see you again.
It's always lovely to see you, and I hope that you'll come on again. Thank you so very much. That's Dr. C.J. Mimee of Bologna Health. Thank you, Dr. Mimee. We'll see you next time. Make it a great day. Our executive producer just sent me a text. She says, I'm so glad you told us that. Sometimes I unconsciously touch people when I'm talking to them. If I had tapped you on your thigh while we were talking somewhere, I'd be wondering why you cussed me out and then stopped talking to me. I wouldn't cut you out. I am aware of it, and that makes it all better. So I wouldn't have went there. I don't think I would have went there because I'm aware of it. I'm conscious of it, and I'm mindful of it. So I wouldn't have went there. Be sure and tune in tomorrow. Let's talk about it with Maika George Floyd. Yes, Crimes Against Humanity with Mama Dean will be co-hosting, so please join in. You'll be glad you did. You can contact me during the week, zelda.now.site. 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 Also, you can reach me, zelda.thefemalesolution@gmail.com. You can call me at 312-409-6619. Join me today at the Memorial for Dr. Conrad Worrell on Oakwood, 39th and Oakwood at the Center for Inner City Studies as we bid farewell to a man who meant so much to the city of Chicago. Stay on purpose, stay empowered, and stay tuned to your next Female Solution show. And thanks for watching, and thanks for listening, and thanks for being the very best you can today. And remember, muscles have memory. Pain is there to teach us a lesson, not to pop a pill, but to teach us a lesson, to get our attention to what we need to be doing. Make it a great day. Namaste. Shalom.